Welcome to the show. And, we've been, with the show for about a few months now. It goes by so quickly. And, the intention behind this show is to really help. We're a husband and wife team, so we're a family. We're all about being able to increase the resilience through brain, body, and mental health. And so we do that with the work that we do in our office, which we'll share about a little bit later today. But, we love to be able to share tools, bring in different guest speakers, different resources, really to empower you, because during times like COVID, and especially now as parents are getting ready to go back, or parents are adjusting to either it's remote learning, hybrid, or even distant learning, or maybe a little combination of everything, there's a lot of unknowns. And we want to be able to, make sure that your family and you yourself are at your most optimal state, because that's how we can raise healthy living kids and healthy kids and affect future generations as well too. So everything that you do now is going to affect future generations, and we want to be able to share all those empowering and evidence-based tools to really make sure that you guys are all successful. And so I'm really proud to be able to present our new sponsor for the show. And, we love working with Shed Light Cold Lasers. So Dr. Sam, why don't you share with us what our sponsor's about?
Absolutely. So yeah, our brand new sponsor, we are super excited and happy to have them supporting our show, just as like Dr. Lynn said. The foundation and our whole purpose with the show is to bring about a different perspective on health. Not that health is something that comes from the outside, whether it's a pill, potion, lotion, or whatever, but health is ultimately, it's your responsibility, and it's your responsibility to cultivate that. So like she was saying, we're bringing, and especially going forward now, we're going to be bringing in different guests that are going to give different perspectives on health, different tools, different things like that, that ultimately contribute to your resilience. And like she said, especially in times of now, but in any time. So just to encapsulate all that again. But our sponsor for the show, Shed Light Cold Lasers. We're super excited to have them support this mission, and also super excited to use them in our office. So if you are tuning in on the webcast, you can see us. It is this little device right here. It's a cold laser. So think of, anybody see the movie Austin Powers where he says, fire the laser? It's not like that. You're not cutting through metal and going to cut people in half. It's actually just emitting light energy and going to stimulate different properties and stuff in the body. Like I said, we use this every day in practice. We use this every day at home. The probably coolest thing that I've used it lately for is last weekend I had the family in town, ate some stuff probably shouldn't have, and had some upset stomach. And so I had this thing lasering on my belly at nighttime. And within 10 minutes, like the pain and just discomfort I was feeling was gone, because it's literally just cutting the inflammation down. But I mean, we use this thing for everything in the office, anything you can think of.
Yeah, and if you think about it, we have some benefits that definitely that the Avant laser that we use specifically from Shed Light is amazing for, which is generating energy production, being able to increase dilation, vasodilation, and production of nitric oxide for blood flow, and also, when Dr. Sam talked about being able to decrease that pain, it's blocking those C fiber nerves that are involved with pain, and there's also enhancing lymphocyte response, so meaning that enhancing the function of those white blood cells to increase your immune function as well too, and enhanced superoxide dismutase levels, which means you're actually decreasing inflammation levels with the Shed Light. And I'm super proud and excited to be able to continually offer this in our office, in the sense that we use this specifically for brain training as well too. There are specific frequencies for different uses, from inflammation to digestion to liver imbalance
and sleep.
So this is an amazing tool. It looks like a little flashlight, and I tell you what, it works wonders in so many different ways, and our practice members love it as well too. So super excited to be able to have Shed Light on board with us, as we want to be able to share as much as possible of different tools. We utilize it obviously in our office. However, this is a tool that families use as well too.
Yep. Yeah, so that's cool, because it's definitely unlike other companies out there, it's one that the public can purchase, and along with that, it comes with this big network and support, this entire doctor group mastermind, which I love being a part of because you can just go in and nerd out and learn about so many different things.
Yeah.
Just grateful to have them as a sponsor for the show, and again, just supporting the mission of helping more people be more healthy and have more tools for themselves.
Shout out to Shedlight. Whoop, whoop. All right. So we want to also next move on to mindset, right? Mindset. Right now, parents, moms, dads, single parents, I know that right now there's a lot of unknowns. We're still juggling. I think this is kind of a second week of school for us right now. Our kiddo just started preschool, and there's days where honestly one of us may wake up and kind of grouchy with each other, right? However, the biggest thing behind when we're in that survival mode is to really just become more attuned, how we can start to shift that. And I know that there's days when I feel rough. I know that things may pop up and all of a sudden it may feel overwhelming for you. And during those times, it's more important now more than ever before to make sure that you kind of check in and check your environment and surround yourselves with things that actually build you up rather than break you down. So I've been listening to Tony Robbins' Unleash Your Power, and it's an amazing audiobook about transforming yourself. And
Unleash the power within.
Oh, Unleash the Power Within.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Sam. He's been listening to it too. I got him onto it.
Right.
I'm always right. Just teasing. Okay, so with the Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins, and in this audio, the first part of it is about being able to increase the standards in your life. So meaning, all those ideas of I should be doing this, I should be taking care of myself, I should be cooking healthier foods, or I should be starting this project. All those shoulds can actually be transformed into a must. And in order to be able to do that, you create a vision, you create purpose, and what our coach, Dr. Robert Melillo, enforces every time and continually remind us is to set goals. And so by doing that, you're increasing your standards. And one of the ways to be able to be successful in increasing your standards is also surrounding yourself with people that are uplifting and that inspire you and who you want to be able to reach towards. So obviously we're not going to hang out with someone like Tony Robbins, right? However, it's being able to listen to audiobooks on your drive to work, or taking your kids on a long commute to school, which is something that we do, or podcasts that help to shift your mind. And I've definitely been in the place where I've been stuck where, my mind's more negative, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, and all of a sudden it's about shifting the environment and being able to be able to have a different message than what you're constantly telling yourself. And then at the same time, surrounding yourself with friends that build you up rather than break you down. If you have a great idea, it's more supportive to have friends or family that's saying, that's an amazing idea, how are you going to do that? Or be an influence to your family and friends by doing the things that you truly want to do. So instead of shooting all over yourselves, as they say, turning it into a must and creating that vision behind it by setting your environment, what you listen to every day, how you feed your body, healthier foods, movement, and how you continually, and who you continually have conversations with, or who you turn to for that core group of people. I have to say the core people that we have in our lives are really small, like our coaches or just our personal friends. However, we all relate in the sense that we all want to grow, and I'm so grateful for the small circle that we have, and we can also truly trust. So something, for our parents, or
Can I throw something in real
yeah,
quick?
totally.
So, this was talking about Dr. Melillo. I saw a post of his today. I don't know if you saw this or not. If this is where you're
Oh yeah,
going.
I totally did that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, go.
I thought it was
already.
great.
Yeah, totally.
So he put out a post today, and he said he was driving in. He lives in New York City. He was driving into the city and listening to this interview with this really famous psychologist who, she said, during these last few months, she's seeing record levels of anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And her solution to it for people was to lower their expectations. And it was really kind of a surprising answer, because no one ever really tells you that, right? Like, oh well, just maybe you're just not going to be so and so. You're just never going to get this. So just lower your expectations. Expect less out of life. And guess what? You won't be anxious or depressed because you'll be then matching your reality. And that's something that he talks about, and like Lynn's talked about here with Tony Robbins, and something he's brought up is, you have this equation for happiness, and it's like this expectations and your standards. And it's like a teeter-totter where they have to kind of balance each other out. And it's like, what's your expectations for reality? What's your standards? And really, like, where's your life at? And for most, her answer to that is, well, just lower the expectations, then it matches your reality, then you're no longer upset, and you're no longer anxious or depressed. And it's like, well, that's a pretty crappy way to do it, right?
Right.
It's like, well, hey, just go tell your kid, you know what, just don't study as much. Don't shoot for the A, just settle with the C, and it's fine. What parent would tell that to their kid?
It's okay. You don't need to lose weight. You look
Right,
fine,
exactly.
and it's okay. Continue to be on that diabetic route.
Just continue to take yourself down this way. And it's just that was like, I read that, and it was just mind blowing just to hear that was a medical professional. That was her advice. That's really the best that she has to offer. And it's like, well, no. The reality is, take a look around at what's going on, at where your life is at.
Yeah.
And instead of lowering your expectations, it's like, raise your standards,
And, tying it back to the audio session that I'm listening to with Tony Robbins, what was really cool too is he talks about that. It's, it's to actually recognize, instead, a lot of times I feel that when you are anxious or you're depressed, there's a sense of something always chasing after you and not knowing what it is, or there's perhaps a conflict in terms of how you're living your life, or you're not receiving in your life, and it's constantly berating, or perhaps it's living in a past for whatever reason. And oftentimes what Tony talks about is really about recognizing the reality and making it better by creating these standards. So I disagree with the doctor that Dr. Melillo had listened to on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, not necessarily lowering your standards or lowering your expectations, but it's more about recognizing the reality. Like today, if you're, just a really little thing, like running behind or in traffic, and oftentimes we can feel really anxious or just build onto, I didn't get to this, I'm going to be late for all this other different things, or pausing for a moment and just saying, okay, reality is there's a ton of cars outside, I'm not going to get there on time, okay, but how can I make this better? I'm going to turn on some really good music and I'm going to jam out to it. That's going to pump me up so that the next meeting I'm going to go in and I'm going to be clear-headed, or I'm going to be confident and not worry and just continue to carry the fact that I was late for one thing, and the anxiousness carries through the rest of the day. Or I'm going to listen to a podcast that's going to build me up. Do you have an example too, Dr. Sam?
Of doing that? Well, I think we all have those days, right? I call them digging through the roots, and it's just, we all have those days where you're down, things aren't going right. Like you said, you hit every red light on the way to work, you're late to everything, you drop your coffee, you spill it in the car. Your kid's upset. We all have those kind of days, but again, your reaction to it is what you can control. You can't control the traffic, you can't control the red lights, you can't control all these 99 other things, but again, the one thing you can control is your attitude towards it. And you start to dictate your attitude, then you start to dictate your reality, because then you start looking at things in a whole different perspective. And
right.
In our practice, we talk a lot about this foundation for vibrant health that Dr. Lynn created, and that's one of the big pieces in that is mindset. And it's just looking at how are you approaching life, and how are you approaching health. And that's the biggest complaint and the just thing that irks me the most in our country is how we approach health care, where everything is somebody else's fault. Everything is someone else's responsibility.
Yeah.
Versus taking responsibility for yourself, making sure you are as healthy as possible, so that when things do come along to challenge you, because we're all going to have challenges in our health care and our life, that you're most ready for it.
Yeah, and if, Dr. Sam's okay with me being completely transparent in our story and how we came to be where we're at today, was it 2017? We had just, we just moved to Colorado. Our son was 1 month old, and we were very much in scare mode because, for whatever reason, we were just not sure what our next steps were in opening our practice. Our plans that we originally had didn't it fell through essentially. And we weren't exercising, we weren't sleeping well, and fast forward that to a year and a half, 2 years later, we felt like we were still pretty much on that same rhythm. And, you know, things had gotten a little bit better. However, it wasn't, we weren't at our best. We were still very unhappy, and, you know, as a couple, I'm sure for many listeners out there, hopefully you can relate, it's a continual up and down process. And by the way, we just celebrated our 4th-year anniversary, and so, but it's taken us a lot in just getting to learn how to dance with each other. And anyways, when we were still halfway through, like, you know, 2 years in to our marriage, it felt like we weren't strong together, and also our practice was not the strongest. We weren't proud of the practice as much as we wanted it to be. And there was this continual blame of like, oh, well, we didn't get the right training in school, or there's never time for me to work out, I never have time to meditate, and survival mode, right? And it pretty much started to hurt ourselves and really hurt in terms of our relationship and how well we communicated with each other. And it was really challenging. Lots of tears and lots of long nights and lots of stress. And what really started to shift was, first of all, once again, it comes back to turning to the right people that we are inspired by. But the other aspect of it was making a decision and saying, this has to stop now. We must turn this around, because our marriage has to survive, our business has to survive, and we want to be able to see each other grow. And this has shifted. Like, we wouldn't be on the show doing something like this right now if we were in that same level of thought process at all. Honestly, we wouldn't be surrounded with the people that we have right now. We weren't on that decision to say, we want to do more and we want to be better. And you know, I kind of lost track of what I was trying to say, but with that said, it was about willingness to be able to take responsibility for ourselves. And it changes the way how we communicate with each other.
Big time, because now we just hold each other accountable, and you know, get the cases at the stinking thinking, and you start to change it, and you know, you flip that and you move forward. And it's like, we still have those days, and we still have issues and struggles like everybody else, because that's the human experience. But ultimately, now we start to flip that a lot faster, versus maybe we'd be stuck in a funk for, you know, over a week or 2 weeks, and now it's like a day or an hour or whatever. But I mean, like she's saying, you know, to kind of tie this back up at the beginning, I mean, at no other time in our history has it been easier to surround yourself with really high caliber individuals, and that's by filtering out what you're listening to and what you're taking in every day. So it's like, you don't need to listen to the news, you don't need to listen to radio if you don't want to. You can literally just listen to podcasts and music all day, every day, and live in that kind of mindset, and be, you know, maybe not with Tony Robbins in person, but you can listen to him every day. Right. You know, maybe not be with these other individuals, but you can listen to them every day.
You could still enjoy the news, but be mindful of when you're taking that information in, such as maybe during the daytime, and not going to bed, last thing you watch before you go to bed.
Right.
And, you know, still follow the news, but only at a place where you can limit yourself, knowing that you just need to get the information, but don't allow your emotions to be sucked in. John Quick, I think he's like this brain expert. He talks about how the first thing he does in the morning is just focus on himself, because he knows that his brain has only this much capacity to do all these different things, and he wants to focus the most important things the first thing in the morning, and that are like meditation, movement, journaling, whatever it is, and then being very mindful about the information that may take a lot out of him, and not put so much energy into that. So.
And that may mean getting up super early, like getting up at 4 a.m., which sometimes we do, to get this stuff in, because having 3.5-year-old, once he's up, you're not going to be doing these other things.
At 6:30. So, yeah, this is where we're very much, you know, the must part has come in, and the standards have increased for us as well, too. And we want to wish that for you, too, is just, you know, hope that this brings you some tips and inspire you to look for things that can continue to build you and your family up. Now, we move into our gratitude stories, and because this part here of our gratitude stories is really what keeps really is what we're passionate about with this, being able to see results in our office, being able, and it ties in, what we do in our office is an extension very much of our own families. What we do with ourselves is, what we share here on the show is very much an extension of what we practice or what we're learning to practice daily as well too. And with the gratitude stories, it's hopefully brings you into mind in terms of what is it something that, it's Friday, what do you want to celebrate for yourself? What is something that has inspired you? What is something that you're, that you maybe you've taken for granted, and all of a sudden, actually, this has been really great that I have it. And for me, like I mentioned before, we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, and I have to say, Dr. Sam, hubby, I'm really grateful for you. And I'm grateful for our partnership because, our son just started, he's third weekend of school, now it's already a blur, oh my gosh. There's a lot of coordination that takes place, and I think parents can understand, like, we're both working parents, and we're sitting literally in front of the computer the week before and looking at our rest of the schedule, like, okay, you take Rivers this week and I'll pick him up, or you're going to be at practice, and all these different coordination. And we're continually texting each other, and I'm grateful for our partnership, and just knowing that there may be days that I screw up, and Dr. Sam will just lovingly, patiently love me and not say anything and still get stuff done and make sure that we're still on top of it. And so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the fact that, we take time to plan everything. And planning, I swear, is like, we never really did this the first few years of our practice, surprisingly. We didn't plan well, and what that meant is less focus, less presence with our kiddo. And now that we are like out of sight, out of mind, because we scheduled it and sectioned it, I can spend more time, and I feel like I have more time with my son because I'm really present with him, and I'm not worrying about an email that I didn't get to. So organization, I'm grateful for organization and grateful for a grounding husband. So.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful for you too, not to sound like the unappreciative husband. Grateful for you as well, and everything that you bring to the table. And I guess as we're talking, it's kind of fun, the stream of consciousness here, but a lot of stuff is coming up that I'm really, that makes me grateful. I would say one, really grateful for a practice member that we've been working with. She is a teenager diagnosed with autism, and she's been getting really great results. Mom's really noticing that her anxiety is calmed down a lot. She's sleeping so much better. She's really getting geared up for school now that she's going to be starting back in person pretty soon. And while it's not like fireworks and miracle stories and guns blazing and all that of like really dramatic change, it's also given me a lot of appreciation to really appreciate the journey, because that's really all it is. And that's a super hard lesson for me to learn, because all I want are fireworks and just celebration and just party all the time, and it's not always that. And healing isn't always that. And there's a principle that we talk about in chiropractic, that there's no process that doesn't require time. And this is really illustrating this for me, and what we do is just takes time. And it's taken time to get her to where she's at, but she's really changed a lot, and it's really been amazing so far. And to continue to see her progress, it's really exciting. And it makes me think about something else too, just gratitude for where we are, from where we've come from, because there's a radio show that I listened to out of Dallas, I won't mention the name, Dr. Lynn knows what I'm talking about, but they just shared a story where a year ago they got demoted to like midday radio, which I guess is kind of lowest on the totem pole, and they were just super disgruntled about it, super depressed about all of it, because they were just doing really well. And a year later, they now have the #1 radio show in Dallas at their time slot. I mean, their whole life is transformed. And it was just cool to see, like, nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. Even the suffering in your life, it doesn't last forever. Eventually, it's going to shift and change. It's just, are you going to be ready to do that? And are you going to also take it into your own hands to make that change?
Yeah, and absolutely, like you said, taking it into your own hands. Yeah. And it's really about the decision. Whatever it is, that challenge it is, it's the decision. Like, and one thing that I appreciate in our practice member that you're talking about is the decision that the mom and the dad has in being able to continually move forward, and knowing that they want success for their daughter, and they've looked in so many different places, and they've come to us, and there are many times I'm sure the parents are like, F it, we're just gonna go ahead and just let our daughter live with this,
Right.
and they didn't, and it's that decision of like, no, we have to keep doing this and keep pushing, and it's that, and even though healing takes time, like Dr. Sam said, it's a second that really, that decision that is just going to happen can happen right away, and you have an opportunity, everybody has an opportunity to turn that around in a second.
And it was just funny too,
Mm-hmm.
because when we were doing her reevaluation, I didn't even acknowledge it on the day of, but we hit all of their goals that they wanted to hit in the beginning of
Woo!
care.
Hit the goals, yes.
And but I didn't celebrate it. I didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And the next day I was just like, look, I need to apologize because I didn't even acknowledge that we've accomplished everything you wanted to when you said you came in here.
Yeah.
And we're not even halfway done. And that was just like, I was a big like realization for me, like, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, she's doing awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going. And Mom's like, oh, thank God, I just didn't know. And I was like, that's my mistake.
Yeah.
To not share that.
Right, isn't it crazy though how easily, sometimes, actually I feel like every day there's something that we achieve and we're just like, next.
Exactly.
Okay, done, go.
Mm-hmm.
And our producer, I think of Henry, and actually like every time we come in, he's always just, really just so like welcoming and having fun and so lighthearted. He's like this little 5-year-old, seriously. He's been on the show before. And
5-year-old in a good way.
5-year-old in a good way.
In a good way, Henry.
Not in a rambunctious way. But it's one of those where it's just like, it's reminding ourselves to pause, have fun, and celebrate. And
he's a guy that celebrates, and that's definitely a lesson. Like, hey, that's something everybody can do a lot more of.
Right, totally.
As another mentor of ours would say, when you reach the end zone, you celebrate. You don't move the goalposts.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, before we get into our topic of the day, I want to be able to share a bit more. We have some great stories to be able to share. Like Dr. Sam shared one of her testimonials. Another one, another big part of bringing the show to you is obviously us, Wild and Precious Optimal Living. And for those of you who aren't familiar with who we are actually both neurologically based chiropractors. So what that means is we focus on the health and function of your nervous system. Why the nervous system? And Dr. Sam's going to give us a little rundown in a little bit about the value behind it, but just a short little tidbit is the fact that your nervous system is the master system. It's like the engine, the operating system of your body. It controls everything that's going on. It helps everything, orchestrates in harmony everything that we do. And one of the biggest things that we do in our office is we incorporate gentle chiropractic adjustments with functional neurology, and that is identifying areas in your nervous system, in your brain, and we start to rehab that, integrate that, so your brain can function at its most optimal state. We love incorporating something like the shed light. We love incorporating other great tools and techniques into the office. And imagine a mountain, and the mountain at the top are these goals that you want to achieve for your health. We have 2 different ways to climb it. The first way is actually the physical way, right, where we are addressing the brain function. The other aspect, and this is where the personalities come in our office in terms of the tools that we have, is being able to address the mental emotional. So we love to be able to empower our practice members with tools to help navigate through stressful times. And we do that from different breath work, from coaching as well too. And so Wild and Precious is a very coherent, very holistic approach. And we want to be able to give a shout out to ourselves today for our practice. Now, I want to be able to share with our a little other story in Wild and Precious Optimal Living. Hopefully Henry will be able to bring up our little ad, our little promo here. But this really lovely family came in, and she's 2 years old and struggles with autism, and the family has seen significant changes. And so something that the dad left behind, and the message is, our daughter has autism, and we have seen drastic improvements. She is more affectionate and interacts way more than she ever has. We were not expecting such dramatic changes in a month, and they did. They saw dramatic changes in a month. So we do work with ADHD, autism, sensory processing, from adults all the way through children through adults, and we do work with moms and women who struggle with hormonal imbalance, such as thyroid imbalance. So if you feel like you want to be able to learn more for yourself or for your kiddos, text us today at 720-667-3650 with the word radio, and you will receive a complimentary consult one-on-one with us, along with a balance and coordination scan. And this is a very great quantitative scan to allow us to see how strong is your brain functioning today. And now we want to be able to move into our fun segment where Dr. Sam gets to share with us. So today we're going to talk more about the building blocks of helping our kids become more resilient and healthy. So Dr. Sam, our science geek of the practice.
That's me. All right. So we're going to start with, and we want to really try to put this through the lens of, building blocks for the brain in kids. This applies to adults too, because there's a blueprint for how the brain develops. It grows from the bottom up, and then it regulates the body from the top down. So think of like building a house. You have the foundation, you have the walls, then you have the roof. And you have to have all those things to make the house complete. If you're missing one part, or if one part's really built poorly, it's going to affect the others. But particularly, we all know in a house, if you shift the foundation, it's going to shift the walls, which is going to affect the roof. And you have to fix the foundation first before you do those other things if it's actually a problem. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to contribute to other problems upstream. So you want to start there. So think about the brain being built from bottom up and then regulating everything top down. So when I say the brain starts at the bottom, it starts at this area. If you touch the back of your head, there's this little soft spot right there, right below your skull, and that's your brainstem. Okay, that is the oldest part of your brain, and it's where a lot of these essential life centers exist, like breathing, digestion, the relaxation response in your parasympathetic nervous system, your heart rate, digestion, just everything. All these things exist in that part of the brain. It also regulates tone of your muscles and a whole bunch of other stuff. In the beginning, when a baby's first born, it's developing all these different parts of the brain, but we develop these reflexes that are called primitive reflexes. You have these reflexes because your brain grows through movement. This is a really critical, foundational, important piece in understanding neurology and understanding anything about cognition, about learning, about emotions, everything. It all starts with movement. Why? Because our bodies are made to move. We live in this constant force that's called gravity. Sometimes it gets to be too much and then we get tired, and that's why we have to lay down, because our bodies are literally just tired of fighting gravity all day. But we have a body that's built to move. The more your body moves, the healthier you are and the better you get, obviously up to a certain point. But you have to be able to move. And these reflexes are there in the beginning because anybody that's seen a little infant, less than 6 months old, really can't move on their own. All they can do is basically come with 3 basic functions: eat, sleep, functions, which is eat, sleep, and poop. That's what babies do. But they have to have some kind of ways to grow the brain, and that's where these reflexes come in. So I'm not going to go into all of them, but just some of the basic ones that most people know is like the bottom of the foot. When you stroke the foot and the toe goes up, that's called a Babinski reflex. Or if you put your hand in a baby's hand and they grab it, that's a Palmer reflex. Or like brushing the face and the baby will turn their head to either go for mom's boob or for a bottle. Those are all basic reflexes that are there. And think of them like training wheels on a bike. You need these to grow the brain, because as the baby's doing things, it's getting these reflexive movements. The brain starts to grow, and boom, they get smarter. The body continues to develop. But after a certain point, just like when you ride a bike, at some point you get good enough, you don't need the training wheels anymore. You're like, I want to go ride fast. I want to go jump off ramps and do wheelies and stuff like that. The same thing with your brain, is it starts to really grow and develop, and you don't need these reflexes anymore, because now you want to roll over, and now you want to crawl, and now you want to walk, and now parents are super stressed because their kids everywhere. You used to leave them in one spot, and now they're not. Now they're up crawling, or they're moving around, or they're bumping their head. It's just, now you're exhausted.
Yeah, and to add on to that, with the primitive reflexes that Dr. Sam is talking about, these are the things these are signs or movements that actually pediatricians do assess during the first year. We want to make sure that these primitive reflexes are there. How they relate to our milestones, specifically too, is it ensures us to be able to to crawl or to roll over or to be able to push ourselves up into a sitting position at the right time. Oftentimes I hear parents that talk about, oh, you know, my son Johnny, he's an early walker, or he's, you know, he didn't walk until he was 2 years old, things like that. And oftentimes those are telltale signs that, you know, it's not necessarily an achievement or slow learner or anything. What that first sign initially tells us is there's something that is delayed in the brain. And the way the brain is maturing, the way the brain is developing, those reflexes are not being turned off, or in other words, integrated at the right time as they should, or they aren't showing up at the right time as they should. And what that means is there's a sequential order in terms of how development happens that Dr. Sam was just describing. And if that order isn't, if we skip something, imagine that you're putting together chocolate chip cookies, right? You can't skip the sugar. You can't put too much sugar or too much butter. It's greasy and it's going to be all flat. And you can't skip the, I don't know, whatever. The eggs, right? Yes, Dr. Sam made banana bread the other night, by the way. We were out of eggs, so we had banana bread pudding instead. It was really fun.
That's really how it turned out. It was not good.
I loved it.
It was an important lesson that you need all these ingredients to make something correct.
Yeah, you need all these ingredients to make something correct. And that same principle goes towards our brain as well, too. And you need the right ingredients at the right time to make that perfect, healthy brain. And so those milestones are there for a reason. It's to help us as parents keep track. And there's actually more milestones than we realize, you know, in terms of when a kiddo should be able to push a button through or tie their shoes, or to be able to pick up a pencil and hold it the right way, and all those different things, indicators. Even hand dominance as well too, or feet dominance or eye dominance. All of that relates and stems back to brain development. And it all comes back down to that brain stem, an initial part in our mom's wombs, and after delivery, how those primitive reflexes, when they show up, and how they affect each other, and also as brain develops, how they start to turn it down.
I have a vulnerable story. Whenever I hear learning how to tie shoes, I'm immediately brought back to kindergarten when I didn't know how to tie my shoes, and I had to keep asking a friend to help me tie my shoes because I didn't know how.
Oh, Dr. Sam.
It was really scary time. Didn't like it. Kindergarten was hard. And for some reason, my parents didn't buy me Velcro shoes. I just had the ones that tied up. I don't know if you could back in the day then. We can now. It's awesome.
I could see your dad say, "Deal with it."
Right.
Tie your own shoe.
Tie your shoes. That was just every time I think about learning how to tie them, that's immediately where I'm taken to. But back to where we're here. So we have these reflexes, and probably one of the biggest misconceptions in especially the pediatric world is everybody assumes, especially healthcare professionals, that these reflexes go away 100% all the time, no problem. And the big part of that is because no one's checking for these things after the first year of life. Yeah. Nobody. And no, except for the people that have been trained to do it, like us. And it blows me away because we just worked with a gentleman the other day who's 46 years old, and he had a positive primitive reflex, and it's probably been there his whole life. And it was just like, what? This guy's 40-something years old, he still has this palmar reflex. It blew me away. Yeah. But just, no one's ever checked for it, no one's ever found that, to look for these things. But it's just, again, we all assume that they go away after the first year, and it's just not true.
Yeah, and I can think about our other practice member, who's 8 years old now, and he struggles with hypertonic flexor muscles, and Mom has been to literally every type of doctor there is, from functional medicine practitioners to nutritionists to neurologists, everything. And what is shocking to us is the fact that we were checking these primitive reflexes and they've never seen any other practitioner do that before. So there they are. They're necessary to check. And if there was another screening, if I was the school admin of every district in the world for school and I could instill something, is just, we have visual, auditory check screenings, and it's so necessary to do primitive reflex screenings as well too. So I'm going to put it out there into the world that if there's any education, teacher, administrator that would love to be able to instill some screening, and you happen to be local in Colorado, please reach out to us, because we would love to be able to start this trend here and be able to encourage other practitioners to do the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So beyond now, we've got, let's just say the brain stem is really starting to develop. The next part of the brain is what's called the cerebellum, which is kind of like the conductor of the brain. Mm-hmm. So it's the part of the brain that is keeping everything running smoothly. And in neurology, it's often associated just with balance and coordination and smooth movements, but it also coordinates thought. And that's kind of something that's really new that's been coming out about the cerebellum. But just think it's like the metronome of the brain. And so it's controlling and coordinating and just keeping the whole process running smooth. Beyond that, then you get the cortex, which is the part of the brain that we all think about. And the cortex is, the executive function. It's, vision, it's smell, it's also executive, what they call executive function, which is like judgment, which is inhibition, which is learning. It's all the different things that we think about in being human. And there's a balance to that too, because there's a balance both side to side, and there's a balance front to back. So we have this left brain and this right brain, and people listening probably have heard somewhat about these before, being a left brain dominant person or a right brain dominant person. And listening, you could probably easily tell which one of us is the left brain versus the right brain person. You can't, I'm the left brain one.
I'm the creative hippie one.
Exactly. She's the one with flowers in her hair, dancing through the fields and all that stuff. So you've got this left brain and right brain balance that needs to be there, because too much of one or the other can really lead to, as I think a really great analogy is, you can have a dominant side and you can continue to push that dominant side, but at a certain point you get to this cliff edge. And once you go over that cliff edge, that's when it really starts to become a disorder. It becomes pathological. So you need to have this balance somewhat of the two, but not so much to the point where it's just way, way out of balance. So for example, like textbook take an autistic kid, textbook autistic kid is going to be very left brain dominant and right brain weak, which is why you'll see, a lot of autistic kids that don't have really strong social skills, don't have a lot of certain skills, and are really good on like fine details, or like they'll see something on the ground and like, this like piece of paper and be like, you're just obsessing over it and like, wow, look at all these different things, these details, and really miss the big picture and miss the context. And that's, again, I'm way overgeneralizing a lot of this, but that's just an example of it, of having a really strong left brain. Again, that's textbook. It's not everybody, but that's just the classic example of it. And it's crazy that there's so much literature and research out there about this left brain, right brain model that, again, we're just immersing ourselves in, but it's really just not being talked about. And it's kind of like it's now being brought up in
actually we're talking about it, so we're the first.
Oh, right.
No. Well, after Robert Malillo and a bunch of other colleagues
of people
that
are
published. So we're just starting to continue to push that trend.
Just pushing and being part of this movement now, but it's just getting this information out there that, this thing is real, it's not a myth. People that say that it is a myth or that it's outdated, it's just not true. But the ultimate thing, what drives, like I said at the beginning, what drives this brain growth is movement. So being able to move your body, and moving your body in a sense of not just, as an adult, not just going to the gym and doing bench presses and lat pull downs and leg extensions and stuff like that, but learning how to move your body in, multi-planar fashion. Just whether it's, yoga is probably one of the best things out there, which she's an expert in, being a teacher for over 10 years. And, anything else like boxing, like MMA, anything that's getting your body moving is really, really important.
Oh, absolutely. And so, tying in, obviously in our office, we do show a lot of movement things where we have people do. You'll probably walk in if you were just an observer of our office, and you just see our practice members doing certain exercises. You're like, what are they doing? Their arms are sticking out and they're turning their head and all these different things. However, those are specific movements that we're using to stimulate different regions of the brain that are delayed or there's a deficit. And so what we're doing is we're integrating those areas to better strengthen the wirings of the brain, right? And even though those specific, and research, neuroscientists have found that those specific exercises, specific movements are necessary for specific developments of the brain and the regions associated with it, it's also necessary in our everyday life to be able to move. And so I know, again, let's tie this back into our current everyday lifestyle and reality right now, where it may feel like we're sitting in front of the computers, or our kiddos are sitting in front of the computers all day, or by the end of the day, it's like super tired. Now, I have to say, Dr. Sam and I live in a very ideal place in Colorado here. So we chose Colorado for this being that, not only the fact that I was born and raised here, but also because of the lifestyle, that it is about being able to go outdoors and enjoy and hike and everything else, and you can totally do this social distance wise, right? But ways to be able to do this even in the craziness of our busy schedule is to be able to schedule times, to make it a necessity for you to move, knowing that this is first and foremost going to help increase yours and your children's focus. It's going to help increase your sense of well-being, and movement is going to also increase your depth of how well you're able to engage with emotions. And oftentimes, I don't know if you realize this or if you ever notice this, but when you sit in front of the computer for long periods of time and you're just sitting there and you're focused on emails, focused on projects, or you're focused on doing something, and then by the end of the day you're like, God, my shoulders and neck feel so tight and I just feel pain. Less movement means more pain. And more movement means you're actually feeling more. You may feel more, you're going to feel more different spectrum of emotions. So you may feel like a little bit of anger or frustration, but you're able to process that and you move it out. And at the same time, you may find it easier to tap into joy and happiness and gratitude because you're moving more. So it's powerful for mental health as well too, right? Now, there's different ways you can do this, and maybe Dr. Sam can chime in, but one of the biggest things that we can do right now is schedule recess even after school. So something that I've done these last few weeks, and I'm actually really proud of myself for keeping up with this, is scheduling recess, meaning I'm literally driving my kid to a playground that he absolutely loves, and even if it's 25 minutes or 30 minutes before I need to do something else, it's the idea that he's moving and I'm doing my best. Sometimes the phone comes out, but I put the phone away and I'm actually playing with him or hanging on the bars or swinging or doing something active. And so recess doesn't stop during school hours, or especially when we're remote, you just have to schedule that recess time and get our kids out and do more and actually be with them. I think now more than ever, it's about building relationships with our kiddos. So using movement as an opportunity to get to know our kids more, get to know ourselves more, and to be able to schedule that saying, this is me time, this is my family time, and so we're not having to wait till weekends in order to be able to do something, right? You can actually fill it in with amongst your busy schedule by scheduling that quote-unquote recess time. And another thing that Dr. Sam and I do at first is if you prioritize movement as an importance in your first part of your day, then you'll get it done and it feels good and it's going to affect you the rest of the day. Anything else, Dr. Sam?
Big time. I mean,
yeah.
I think everybody's experienced this. You're having a struggle day, or you're just in a bad mood and you go to the gym and then you leave and you're like, oh, I feel so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But why is that? Well, because movement fires this part of your brain at if you touch your forehead, your frontal lobe, that's where that is.
Mm-hmm.
It fires that part of your brain, which then helps to regulate the rest of your body, and it literally puts you in a better mood because you just moved your body. You just dissipated a bunch of tension.
Yeah.
You just literally just opened everything up. You got your heart going, you got a sweat going, you got endorphins running through your body. You just fired all this neurology, and now you feel good because you're running a part of the brain.
Cool.
Yeah. So the last part, the building block that you need to build a really healthy brain is nutrition. You need good food. And I've been harping on this now the past several weeks, and especially on my social media, posting a lot about this. But what's really come up a lot, and especially with COVID, and now we're going into the fall season, which typically is always known as flu season, but really focusing on nutrition. What are you putting in your body? Fast food is not food. I'm going to say it right now. It is fake food. It is not real. Mm-hmm. Stuff that comes from the ground, plants, fruits, vegetables, even meat, that's real food. And it's cooked slow, it takes a while, usually, unless you get it from like a Whole Foods or something like that where it's already cooked. But you need good food. You need protein, you need vegetables, you need fruits, you need good fats. Don't listen to people that say you need no fats in your diet. You need good, healthy fats, and again, not from a fryer, from like a coconut or an avocado or a good piece of beef or elk or bison or whatever. You need that good fat in your body, because guess what? Your brain and your nervous system, the nerves in your body that run to your hands and your toes and everything else, those are all wrapped in fat. They're wrapped in this thing called myelin. It's a myelin sheath. It's made of fat. Your nervous system is insulated in fat. Your brain is all made of fat. So guess what you need in your body? You need fat.
Good fat.
Good fat. You need that stuff. You need that in there. You need good things in your body to help it grow. Because guess what? Your body is made from everything that you take in. Literally, you are what you eat. So think about how, to me, this is like the most crazy, amazing thing. And a friend of mine pointed this out a long time ago. But that old show, I don't think it's on anymore, that old show called The Biggest Loser, where he had these really, really big fat people in there, and they were all trying to lose weight. He was like, to me, man, it's amazing that people that big are still alive. That they've eaten themselves that much into like a calorie overload that they're still alive. And to me, it's amazing because you'll talk to certain people and what they eat every day. It's like, oh, I eat Taco Bell for breakfast, I eat McDonald's for lunch, and I eat Wendy's for dinner. And their bodies are still functioning. They're still like pulling out stuff there.
Absolutely. And given, I know that there are some listeners out there that may be like, well, I'm overweight and I'm eating really healthy. What gives, right? I can't seem to lose the weight. And this is something where it's going to point back down to, how's your gut health? Do you have the right bacteria in your body? Good probiotics in your body to be able to metabolize your food. And it comes back down to brain health as well too. If you're living a very stressful life, or you have had some trauma, or you've had some struggles growing up as a kid, getting sick all the time, all those different things, that's going to tie back out to how well is your brain functioning. And if your brain is constantly in that fight-flight mode, you're not going to be able to process or digest or metabolize food as well as you should. And so what that is if you're struggling with losing weight, or if you're holding weight, or if your kiddos are, you're like, well, they stay active, I'm not sure, it could be food. Maybe there's something else, right? And this is coming back to, let's dig a little bit deeper. You have to, check in with us or ask us some questions. We're happy to, support you. But it comes back down to brain health as well too.
Brain health, and what they're finding too, one of the biggest things, if you are one of those that's like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not losing weight, one of the biggest things they're finding now that's having people hold on to weight is inflammation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Super high inflammation means your body's not going to lose the weight.
Yeah, and we think we buy health foods that are processed ahead of time for our convenience, and it says it's healthy, but truly it's not.
It's not.
And it creates more inflammation, or if your body's just more sensitive to it and you don't know, and that's what you love to eat, it could be another thing too. And stress contributes to inflammation. So
big time.
Big time.
Yep. So she was talking about, we have 5 minutes left. Let's talk back around and circle around a little bit more to talking about the gut.
Oh, absolutely. I do want to add one thing
Go
too.
for it.
Oh, I mean, if you want to talk about gut, but I get a little bit excited. So when we talk about nutrition, it comes back down to, what are you doing with your kids to make sure that they stay healthy, right? First and foremost, Dr. Sam said, eat wholesome foods, right? Eat whole, real foods. Cook at home. And I know you're thinking, I don't have time. I have to homeschool my kids. I have to work and everything. Now, if you plan your schedule and set ahead of time, though, and you're cooking with your kids, or even just having them help something in the house with the cooking process, what's fun about this, sometimes we have Rivers jump on and, I know he's 3 years old, but we are very careful, but he loves to get on the stove and stir whatever we're cooking too, and that helps because he gets excited about what he's going to eat, because he's like, I help mom and dad make this. And so make it a family affair, and it makes it fun. Again, it's another fun way to fit in family time and productivity time, and at the same time you're eating healthier when you're planning your meals and knowing exactly what you want to do. And on top of that, it's like home ec at home. So that's another course as if you're creating for your kids by doing that, and make it fun. So don't make it a chore, make it fun.
Make it fun. Have more fun in life. I agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to throw it back a little bit to a super quick crash course in the microbiome and some things you could do about it is, the microbiome is made up of all the bacteria in your gut. There's balance. You should have more good than bad. You also have in your gut these things called tight junctions. That's basically where food is absorbed into your body. Once those tight junctions become loose, that's when you start to get crazy inflammatory reactions, because now your body's literally attacking the food that should have been broken down, and it's not being broken down, so your body's attacking it, and you're creating, guess what, more inflammation, which is probably a reason why, if you're a person that's struggling with losing weight, that may be a big contributor to it. You know, the gut is directly connected to the brain. We talk about the the gut-brain connection all the time, and it's a really important one to assess and figure out what to do about it. So it's super important to address. We don't have time to go into it now, but that's a big thing to understand.
Another fun talk.
Another fun talk.
I mean, it could be our next talk with Nikki Burnett from Taste Life Nutrition
Hint.
our next show on the 18th at 2:30. So be sure to tune in then live.
Right, we're gonna go deep into that. We're gonna actually, and also we're gonna debut a pretty cool program that they really her, my wife Lynn and Nikki have been working on. This thing, I mean, I've been kind of like peeking over the shoulder, like, hey, what are you doing over there?
We involve him from time to time.
You know,
he's just a pretty face in the program.
Exactly. I just get to be the looks. But seriously, I've seen what they put together, and it's awesome. There's literally nothing else like it on the market that's coming out. I mean, I've seen diet programs, I've seen online stuff like that. Nothing is as comprehensive as this thing.
You guys all get to be involved in it really shortly here.
It's going to be super sweet.
Yeah.
So let's wrap all this conversation up. We've been rambling for an hour. So, again, be grateful. Practice gratitude every day. It's super hard to do. Trust me, I struggle with this. But find things to be grateful for. I mean, there's always something. I guarantee there's always one thing a day. Be grateful for it. Take time to step out and take your kids to the park. Take them outside. Do something.
Have recess. Have fun.
Home ec. Move your body. Eat good foods. What else am I missing?
Build up your environment so to help that promotes growth and not breakdown.
That's right. And surround yourself with the people you want to be surrounded by.
Yeah.
Could be Shakespeare. Just Shakespeare in your car. You want to be surrounded by Shakespeare.
I think I would crash listening to Shakespeare. I'm like, what? All right, so our time is up today. We thank you so much for tuning in and signing off. We want to be able to ask you this one last question. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? This is Dr. Sam and Dr. Lynn here, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at 2:30 on Friday the 18th. And enjoy your Labor Day weekend. See you around.
Stay safe. See ya.